was a nice road.
That was my epic intro. My high adventure intro is what we're calling that.
Sure.
Because this model makes me feel like I'm in the days of high adventure. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Get Your Paint On, your Thursday morning painting show. Here from the Privateer Press HQ from sunny downtown Bellevue. It's not really sunny at all.
It's not sunny even a little bit.
Not even at all. Joining me today is Mr. Doug Seacat.
Hello.
The man, the myth, the legend with the buttery smooth voice. Also with me today is the producer of the mixer, the mixuser, Mr. John
That's
Swinkles.
not a word.
The mixuser?
Mixuser. Mixuser.
Not a word.
Words are things you make up. That's just fact.
I like that. It's kind of like adds in masseuse, sort of into his title.
Masuser. So we're going to be painting Alexia from the mini crate.
It's awesome.
And my goal here is 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I painted the Alexia from War Machine, and I had her on a little display plinth, and it was for a painting competition at War Machine Weekend.
Yeah.
And the title of it was called The Things We Do for Love.
Cool.
Right? That makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Very story-driven little narrative piece. But that was 6 years ago.
That's cool.
That's a long time. And I kind of want to go back and revisit the piece, except for with this new model.
Did you have it, was it sort of you said it was sort of a story piece. What did you do to it?
So she's on a little plinth, and I carved it out. So like imagine this is a little piece of square wood. I carved it out, so it's got like a little hole in it. And she's like, it's like the top has like a little bit of like flagstone, and then a flagstone stairs going down that slowly go down into like a cave, and there's like a skull or two down there.
Right.
And I did it kind of cool. It's square, and the one side is carved out, and it actually carves into the other side. So it kind of splits two sides of the piece, so you can kind of turn it.
Oh, that's cool.
So I kind of want to do that again. I've learned a lot in painting since then. And then we have a new model. So I kind of want to revisit that piece and do an updated version of it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And so today I'm kind of wanting to sketch out thoughts on lighting and color on this new Alexia before I commit to a full paint job. Does that make sense?
So just kind of a test template.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally a sketch, right? It's kind of working out some of the philosophical stuff of light and color. I kind of want to do 2 light sources on this piece.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
not really sure if that's what I'm going to do. So I'm kind of working. That's what this piece is for, is to kind of get some of these ideas out of my head and address any pitfalls before I commit to, a 80-hour art project.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any specific color thoughts that you've been considering?
That's the funny thing about this is I'm literally going full. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm
just gonna embrace it.
I'm just gonna roll with it, Doug. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna kind of see where colors fall and just kind of get some ideas out. And I want to think about like light coming from this side and maybe some low light coming from this side. But what does that mean for this piece? Is this a warm light and this is a cool light? Where the intersection? So it's just kind of working out some of the philosophical stuff before committing to a full paint job.
Well, it's kind of interesting just thinking about it because, especially in the old days with the original role-playing game all being in black and white, and even though we had those great color covers from the Witchfire trilogy. It just feels like most of my thoughts and experience with her is sort of a black and white, image in my head. And we've, even when we've depicted her, she's often been in those stark sort of, pale skin and so, it's interesting to consider the different directions you could go with trying to kind of bring some color into it.
And that's the thing I'm kind of thinking about is if I'm doing this as Alexia, I'm kind of beholden to a lot, especially if it's a story piece, right?
Sure.
I'm beholden to an homage or a replication of
but I have to think
work.
She probably has, a variety of clothes in her wardrobe.
Does she have a red dress?
She might.
Does she have a red dress?
I think she's probably got some variety. I don't think it's all white, all funereal.
But I think that's kind of I am kind of playing with that story. And, and that's kind of where I'm at, is like, how can I approach the same ideas and the concepts and just add something new to it, right?
Right.
I do feel like I want to do the white dress. I want to do the white corset or whatever that's called, and the black hair and the pale skin. But what can I do that's different?
Right.
And then the lighting, of course, right? Because I'm with you. Like, I mean, I didn't work on this stuff. I wasn't even at Privateer Press, but I was very much involved with the community of Privateer Press for a long time, and some of my first interactions were early War Machine and finding the Witchfire. Oh, I found the Witchfire.
Oh yeah.
I'm bringing back my dead mom.
Just kind of sitting there in a game store.
Yeah, and so I agree with you. It's like I kind of still see her in black and white, right? And
I do think of, which this figure always makes me think of, the collected edition cover, which does have, a little bit, it has some skin tone, but it's still very grayscales. I was just looking at it right now, looking at the cover of that collected edition where she's in that white attire.
I've looked at that cover a lot.
Yeah.
Preparing for today.
I'm sure.
I was like,
is that mouth white highlight you're using, or?
This is not. Good luck today, John.
Mixes.
This is, so I have 6 paint bottles open and 7 paint bottles on the desk. The 6 paint bottles that are open are Ren Flesh, Mid-Off White Highlight, Underbelly Blue, Morrow White, Sickly Skin, Carnal Pink. That is going to be my skin recipe to some extent. Beaten Purple, Murderous Magenta, Sanguine Base, and Cold Black might make their way into it. So would Troll Blood Highlight. Possibly Bastion Gray. I'm just going to see what
unless I
happens.
want Swatch Swoop on the screen, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
You'll just have to let us know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll try to make sure that I maintain some semblance of help with colors.
And even it's just like going into your thoughts on why you're trying that out.
Yeah, and that's what we can kind of do is like the idea here is that cover is so like that cover is very cool.
Yeah.
I love that cover.
Me too.
It makes for a very classic almost like classic comic book horror.
Yeah, that actually is very much the vibe, I think.
So I really want to lean into that. I think playing with a lot of very pale tones. Oh, look, John's bringing it up.
Yeah. And you have the little bit of the sort of the the bronze on the hilt and of the sword.
Can you make that a little bigger for me? Okay. I don't know what you're doing. I'm just clicking.
But yeah,
lots of
I could
copies for this
see
project.
exploring those sort of those muted colors, the pale.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes just doing what exists is fun, right?
Yeah.
And kind of painting a little picture with the picture that already exists is a lot of fun. There we go. Look at that. So you can see. Can I do this? Oh, it disappears. The paintbrush disappears. Can
we do that?
you put that behind? That would be cool.
Not without a green screen.
Oh no. Okay. But you can see like some really interesting tones in there.
Mm-hmm.
Riker's Iron says skin tones are fun, stressful, but so much experimenting to get a variety of themes and colors and types. Yeah, I mean that's exactly what this model is. This model is for experimenting. This model is for nothing else but experimenting, right? Like this model is not going to be, you know, on a plinth. This model is not going to be in my army. This model is going to go on a shelf and be like, remember that time you did that thing? There it is. And I'll be like, cool, I remember that. And then I'll be like, yeah, I know, right?
The other thing I really like about the model is how prominently featured the sword is, but in a way that, you know, that feels different.
Yeah.
So I could also see, you know, maybe taking an approach of, you know, bringing out those runes a little more, or, you know, finding some other places to put little spots of color.
So I did that in my original piece. Is I actually took the opportunity to, and this is actually a fun story. You want to talk about the fine art of correcting one's mistakes? The original Alexia model, she's kind of got her right arm kind of crooked in front of her. Her left arm goes back. She's holding a witchfire, and her cape covers the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was painting the witchfire. I was painting the sword, and I can't remember exactly what I did. There was something in the paint, and like the face is done, the armor's done, everything is about her's done. I'm doing the sword last, and there was some in the paint, and I went to pick it out, and all of the paint just completely got eradicated.
Oh, really?
Right. So I peeled all the paint off of the sword.
Oh, wow.
And there was something actually in the metal that I missed.
That's interesting.
And I shaved the metal down and redid and then reprimed it with black paint.
Wow.
And then repainted that sword. And it was the most nerve-wracking.
I'm sure.
Like,
because you had already done the whole rest of it.
it was done.
Wow.
It was ready to go mount to the plinth.
Oh,
it was
man.
ready. And War Machine Weekend was like a day away. So I was getting ready to drive to War Machine Weekend and enter the competition. And that was my competition piece. And I was so stressed.
Yeah, that's super stressful.
That was like just 8 hours of like, oh, what?
What am I
have
gonna do?
done? But I fixed it and didn't win the painting competition.
Was it a learning experience
Absolutely. It was an absolute learning experience. It was,
amidst your tears?
what have I done? So I've mixed
Paint.
I mixed some paint here and I forgot what it was. There's coal black and underbelly blue and Rin flesh, and I'm putting in like a very subtle soft blue to begin building that shade side of her. Yeah. Oh, but anyways, the point of that was I ended up eradicating. There's little runes in the witchfire.
Right.
I had to get rid of those.
Because of just to get it back down to the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
So and then I puttied over them, and then I had to hand paint the runes in. And, well, because it's black on
Sure.
black. What I ended up doing, I painted them all glowy green.
Oh, cool.
So like that
Sure.
necrotite green, which I might do a callback to on this piece, is kind of do that necrotite green.
Yeah, I could see doing something there. It just feels like there should be a little something going on.
So, is the witchfire depicted with glowy runes at all?
You know, I was looking back on a couple of the other artistic depictions, and it really hasn't been. Although in the, the epic version where she's on the horse,
She does.
it has it. At least the sword has some like sort of glowy tendrils of energy kind of wrapping around the
Right.
sword, and the runes themselves aren't, specifically glowing, but I don't think it would be unusual. We've shown, that magical runes like that can definitely glow. I think it's just a matter of, artistic interpretation so far. We haven't
So we
seen
haven't
it.
canonically said what color these runes are.
No, so I think you have leeway. But it's definitely a really powerful, necromantic artifact. But I think you could justify anything. Like you can go with the green if that feels right to you. But
Do we just refuse to tell people what color the Orgoth glow is? Is that all it is?
they
Keep them guessing still.
It's one of those things. I do think the green makes sense because we've talked about the fact that that in many ways a lot of the Crick's necromancy was sort of inherited from or borrowed.
It's
from
like
the
reverse
Orgoth.
engineered to some extent.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of their technologies, including a lot of the Soul Cage stuff, was taken from the Orgoth. So I think that you can feel at liberty to borrow from that.
I mean, and that's kind of what I like.
Now, I
I've
will
always imagined, like, because that part of the story, right? The Crick stealing or
Yeah.
reverse engineering Orgoth tech.
Now, I will say the sword isn't necessarily Orgoth, although.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But we've kind of kept it a little bit mysterious. But it certainly draws on those, very ancient, original necromantic powers, like sort of even before there were many active necromancers in the world. It's intended to be this sort of like ancient, mysterious artifact.
It's the old witch's old toothpick. She's just like, I'm done with this, and everybody's like, this is really powerful. And she's like, ah.
and the carvings on the pommel with the heads, with those strange sort of tongues extending from it. It definitely has an Orgoth feel to it.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do green, just because I like the way green looks
Sure.
on this palette, right? I do that. Oh yeah, that one is yellow, like squiggle glow.
Yeah, that's sort of the energy that comes off of it. Has tended to be more yellow. It's also yellow kind of in the epic incarnation, but that doesn't mean the runes have to be.
That's
It's up to you.
somebody else's,
Yeah.
not ours.
But like,
See, it's so much easier in black and white.
if
It's like, whatever.
you can find her art, which is in, I think it's in the Colossals book, is where we had her epic first show up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, there's the original No Quarter
There you
illustration.
go.
I forgot
Nice.
about that. Yeah, she actually showed up in No Quarter before we had her in any book. She was one part of when we had a number of mercenary releases that were coming out kind of at a in between time between some of the older book releases, and the first time that we did her as a War Machine model was featured in No Quarter.
Back in the bygone days.
But yeah, it's fun. Both the collected edition cover and the model that you're working on really remind me of just some of the kind of amusing things about the Witchfire trilogy as a role playing adventure. Like, the covers really angered people because it gave away the fact that there was something sinister about Alexia. Like, we've gotten so used to it now that, like, I love the piece where the thralls are surrounding her.
Right.
But if you're running those games as a game master, it makes it a little harder to make Alexia seem innocent and just somebody's niece at the beginning part of that adventure. And that was always sort of a criticism of the covers, even as much as everybody loved the art that Matt Wilson had done. Or like, it kind of gives away the plot a little bit.
That's all right.
But sometimes you have skeleton friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an
That
evocative
doesn't mean
piece of
you're
art.
a bad person just because you have thrall friends.
I don't consider her bad.
Yeah, she's got an unusual mental state. She's a little bit insane,
This is a little bit insane.
but in a good way.
The things we do for love, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's got good intentions.
So Legionnaires asks, so where's Alexia now? I don't want to give away too much, but I will say in the collected edition that we're finishing up, there is an Alexia cameo from the recent past, so I wanted to get her in there. So she does make an appearance in one of the few new stories, the recent stories that I've done.
Can you tell me after the stream? So I know?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thanks.
But it was really fun to kind of get back to her as a character, because a lot of it, that's one of the, I have to say, it's probably one of the most common questions I get at conventions and things is what's
Alexia,
what's Alexia doing? What's she up to?
I mean, it just goes back to that. She's such an iconic
IKRPG.
Oh yeah,
and evocative character.
she's pretty much like I was thinking about it. She's the I would say the first significant character that we really established. You know,
Yeah.
even though there's a bunch of other characters in the Witchfire trilogy, you know, Alexia is the only one that really kind of hangs on, and that everybody, you know, is still just as vibrant today as you know, back in the original days. And you know, and she's one of the few non-caster characters that we've allowed to have an epic version in War Machine. So yeah, she's had a great extended life from when she was first introduced in the Witchfire trilogy.
She is one of my, I don't know,
Yeah,
just one of my favorite characters.
me too. And there's a lot of ways in which, you know, the Witchfire adventures kind of violated certain things that you should do in an adventure. There was definitely some deserved criticism for how railroady the Witchfire trilogy was. It did kind of push you along a path, and Alexia was a big part of that. But she was a great character, like, you know. And I've read and heard so many great stories of people describing, you know, the encounters of their characters and how things went down with her, and you know, how frustrating it was for the for the players who wanted to just murder her right off the bat, or you know, just strange ways that the adventure would go depending on their run-ins with this character.
Those don't sound like heroes in my book.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I said, there's definitely some people who jumped the gun just because of the cover. They're like, look, just because somebody has undead friends doesn't mean you should just shoot them in the face as soon as you say hello.
Sometimes there's a story.
Yeah, maybe they've got good reasons. Maybe your mom was murdered by a wizard when you were 7 years old, and you saw it happen, and it's given you a different outlook on life.
You're like, I'm taking matters into my own hands.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I always think about with Alexia, because she is a little bit disturbed. She's had some traumas in her life. But yeah, she actually saw her mom like beheaded when she was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And then she was raised by her uncle, Father Dumas, our first archetypal Morrowian priest, who I've always imagined as being very benevolent, but probably not the most perceptive person in the world. Because I have to imagine there were signs that Alexia was a little different when she was young.
Right. And
he's like, oh, she's fine. You know?
Or maybe denial.
She's my little niece. She's perfectly fine.
Maybe a little denial.
Yeah, she's like playing with bones, you know, like stitching them together. And he's like, that's pretty cute, but leave the corpses in the crypt.
We've all got our quirks.
Yeah. Making cute little dolls out of skeletons.
So I'm pushing a little bit more.
She's just exploring her world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let her be, Martha. Let her be. So I'm gonna go to a little Bastion Gray here. And I'm gonna mix a little bit of my coal black into that. Just gonna have a little fun. The camera's in the way, smashing my paintbrush, ruining my paintbrush. So I'm just gonna kind of glaze this over with a little tube brush. I'm just going to establish some dark shadows on that cloth.
Cool.
Especially on this side right here where this little grabber hand is.
So how many little skeleton bits do we have on that lower portion? I guess there's a bunch of little skulls and things.
There's no skulls. There's only there's a hand grabbing her
just
ankle.
the hand. Oh, they're just breaking through the earth.
2, 3, 4, 5 hands.
Okay.
Coming out. So the other thing I'm thinking about doing is possibly adding more skellies.
Yeah, I could see that.
Into my piece. Maybe taking there's a risen that's kind of hunched over.
And he's got his little claw hand out.
No.
Not that one?
No, there's a risen that's kind of hunched over. And actually, if you cut him just right, he looks like he's like pushing shoulders first up out of the dirt.
Nice.
So I thought about maybe establishing some of that around her.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, because one of the fun aspects of the sword is that it just kind of spontaneously causes undead to be rising up, around her. It's the notion is it augments her. She already has some necromantic powers, which it augments. But it's like wherever you take that sword, if you're not careful, there's just undead cropping up.
I mean, the IK is just covered in undead.
Well, there's a lot of people have been buried. Sometimes not always with the best burials. Sometimes you don't dig down as far as you should.
You're literally standing on a pile of bodies,
Yeah.
no matter where you're at.
There's been a lot of warfare.
It's like, where do we get a body? Are you kidding? Let's
Just
anyway.
just dig a
Welcome
hole.
to the Iron Kingdoms. Take a body.
Yeah, just dig a hole, pile some dirt on top of the bones. We got to get to lunch.
Need to find a body? Wait for a windstorm.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine any kind of flood or something. All of a sudden, it's just downriver. There's all these bodies washed up.
I imagine that there's actually services that pride themselves on the fact that they dig them deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's even there was
You
one.
want your restless dead to stay in the ground? Call AJ's grave digging. We dig them deeper.
Yep. Well, it was one of the fun parts of the original Witchfire trilogy is right in I think the first adventure, you're running into multiple horrible graveyards that have been desecrated. So it's just right off the bat, that
Nothing's good.
nothing is sacred. Good town to be a necromancer, though.
Right. Necromancers. Good at making friends.
Good at making friends and making use of things that other people don't care about anymore. You got to recycle.
Okay, so I need to tone this down. So I'm going to take Morrow White and Trollblood Highlight. Trollblood Highlight's a fantastic color for this.
Oh, yeah.
Trollblood Highlight is not just for trolls' lips.
So where are you using it? Just on the skin?
Actually on the cloth.
Oh,
here.
cool.
I'm going to start highlighting.
Oh, nice.
It's more like a base color
Mhm.
to some extent.
A base gradient.
Because it's going to be a very broad blend to kind of reestablish that white.
Yeah.
I put that very greeny blue into the shade just to add some color to it. I want to kind of come back, just kind of reestablish some of that.
To get the white cloth.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And oh, it's always so hot up here. Ugh.
Right under your light.
I mean, that's how I always paint, is right under the light. But it is always so damn hot up here. Yeah, and see, I'm just kind of working around and thinking about, the idea was to put a little blue into that shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Do I like it? Do I not like it? Not real sure. Right, and that's what this is for. This is literally me just trying to work out what I want to do when I go to do the real do.
Sure.
As you said before, it's literally sketching.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some ideas and direction before committing to the full project, because I want to go into the project with a clear indication of what I want.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to work it out, right? I mean, you do that with writing too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I always kind of allow myself on the first draft to, make some mistakes, maybe write out a scene in a little bit more detail than I might want it later.
Mm-hmm.
Meander a little bit, and then I can cut it down.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of work, when you're planning something big, right? It's like a lot of times I just paint by sense of smell, right?
Sure.
I just get in there and I just start going, and I'm like, I'll just make some decisions as I progress. And then sometimes it's good to just be like, okay, well, let's see what some of these decisions look like before committing to a large time commitment. All right, she's got a little bit of that right there.
Were you going to try to get the cave in there like you were talking about that you had done on the original?
I think so. I think I
do
want
like that
some
idea.
sort of I mean, I'm definitely, she's going on a plinth. I just don't have the plinth yet.
Right.
So that's the other thing, right? Is like, I'm kind of in this like holding pattern. I don't really have, let's see if we can get a little, we'll get a better picture of her. She's a little blown out. So, and my colors are very subtle. Actually, they're not. They're just very light. They're very punchy.
Well, and then you went back over them with the white.
I'm liking even just it feels
can
a little
see
it
the
feels a little more textured, you know, right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm liking it.
I'm just kind of working on what colors I want and trying to play with different recipes here instead of being like, okay, I know this recipe. I'm going to do it. So, no, you know what? I'm going to play with some stuff. See what happens.
Riker's Iron is asking if I save the original works when I'm writing before editing. Yeah, I tend to be in the process of I like to save all the different versions, and I just increase the number. And that way,
piles of them.
Yeah, and that way, like if something happens later where I'm like, that's a weird sentence. Did I put that in there? I can look back and be like, oh yeah, that was me. I always want to blame, somebody else. I'm like, I think the editor messed with my beautiful prose. And I'm like, nope. That was me.
That was my prose. For some reason, I did.
I don't know why I liked that particular word choice there, but yeah.
Well, I mean that's just creativity in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's a work in progress, right? It's like evolution, and you just kind of develop. You got to develop an idea. You don't just have idea. You develop an idea a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were talking about going back and looking at something from 6 years ago. It's a similar kind of thing with me that I was really experiencing pretty strongly with the CCAT collection in particular, because there's some material in there that's back from the beginning of when we were working on the Iron Kingdoms that never got published anywhere else. That was just something I created when we were making the world. And it's interesting to look back on that, and you've learned things. There's definitely things I would have written differently now, but it's also kind of fun to see the things that you came up with when you were first, coming up with the ideas for the setting. And
right.
And so I found it very interesting to look back on what I was doing, so many years ago.
I'll punch this up with a little white, just in some very select spots. So I've already noticed I don't really care for this blue-green shadow, but it's right this second I hate it. But let's see what happens here in a little bit. Like I literally hate it right now.
You don't like the colors that it's bringing into it?
Yeah, I don't. But that's okay. That's okay. Like I can hate it right now.
Red Death says it seems like she's significantly larger than the original sculpt. No, it's just we're real zoomed in.
Her original sculpt. It's one of the things I think we noticed even when it first came out. Like her original sculpt, she's really tall. Like,
her original sculpt is really
she's
big.
like a basketball player in that that original sculpt.
Let's not.
We lost him.
No, I'm trying to decide how to phrase this. She's probably bigger than you think, John.
Yeah.
She might actually be bigger than the original.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying the camera also doesn't help that illusion.
Sure.
I'd go grab mine off my desk, but I just took it home because I'm using it and some other stuff for redoing my new one.
Okay, sure.
Following along with inspiration from Dallas, because Alexia was the first privateer model I ever painted.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, well,
That was a character.
Yeah, I think I painted her pretty early along
her
too.
box and Crow's Cutthroats at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say I started with the Thrall warrior and her.
Right.
Because I wanted to get down like what I wanted to do as far as their bases.
Right.
And their weapons, because I wanted them to have some similarity in how I did the glow.
Sure.
Because I did a little bit of glow on the inset bit, like just a really faint one, and then for the Thrall warrior, I did the glow just on the outside edge of the blade.
Right.
Like it was covered in rust, but there was something emanating from in it.
Yeah, I think the little skull base on the first Alexia iteration were like the first skulls I had ever painted.
Yep.
Just
I had
piles of skulls.
I had a green glow coming out from their eyes.
So of course black hair. I'm gonna have to put some color in here to match what's happening in the dress. So I'm using a very thin black over that white and black primer
Mm-hmm.
and trying to maintain some of that white highlight. Not much though, because if you leave too much white, they look like they have gray hair, and I don't want it to
Right.
look like gray hair.
How do you prefer to highlight black hair like that?
Very small, very precise highlights.
Do you use a specific? Do you use like a blue, or do you what do you prefer to use color wise for highlighting black?
It depends on the character. Sometimes I go with like a gray.
Okay.
So like I'll do La La La.
Bastion gray.
Yeah, Bastion Gray, Mammoth White Base, Hammerfall Khaki mixed into Thamar Black, stuff like that. Other times I do the coal black. It all depends. So the big thing is you kind of want like the highlight area like this to be as black as possible.
Right.
And then you put color down in the shade, and then you just do like little tiny highlights, right? And you can get some really that young, luscious, like vibrant black jet hair.
Right. You don't want her to look prematurely aged.
No, yeah, that's a big trick of painting black hair. Is like a lot of times they just look like you're just like, oh, you made an old like version. Cool.
Right.
No, like I didn't, and you're like, oops. All right, to get the underside of that, I'll have to flip her up. Oh, see me bump her nose?
You boot the snoot.
I beat this new. It's all right. There we go. So, I know she has white tassels, but I'm going to use a little bit of very thin black. Kind of tie around those. Just to define that. There we go.
I wonder if she gets annoyed at those grabby thralls. You know,
That's her face right now. She's just like, ugh, again.
it's just like they keep grabbing my sword.
Quit grabbing the sword, boys.
I got places to go.
I got things to do.
I've got a dead mom to avenge.
Yep. Who's in my head?
All right. I'm going to block in that black onyx sword. Now, this is just pure black. I'm just going to go
Sure.
as a black sword.
Yeah, I've always loved the black metal look of that blade.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's not a friendly looking sword.
No, it's not.
Right? I don't
It's-
see anyone in the ranks of Signar picking
Yeah.
that up going, but no, I'm a good guy.
There's no mistaking that is yeah.
so all the times I've approached this sword, I definitely paint it like onyx.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
I just want that jet. And it also just provides a ridiculous contrast to the paleness of her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then especially once you throw in that glowy greens.
Glowy, greasy, grimy, grungy green.
Can grungy green glow? Maybe. I don't know. I have to play with that one.
You can. You mix a little bit of brown ink into it.
He just doesn't know if he wants it.
True. Yeah, you don't always want a grimy glow.
Okay, good thing I'm painting that hand later. So it's got black all over it. Oh, what else?
Something fine art of fixing one's mistakes.
Seeing that already. Man, that just makes that sword just stand out against her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave the inside at white because I'm going to use a lot of greens in there. Alright, I want a little bit more black on this side.
Yeah, she does not look amused. That's why I like this one. Is she looks like she's just like.
Oh, she is saucy.
Spicy, Alexia.
Well, it's those accidental thralls. She was trying to do like a non-thrall,
Resurrection.
I think she was having her portrait done, and she kind of wanted one without any thralls there, and then they just come springing up out of the ground.
They're like, "Hello, friend."
Perhaps you need help with your sword.
You there, take my picture. No, not again.
I can't stand anywhere in Imran without them coming up out of the ground.
Exactly.
Is there any place that doesn't have corpses?
I want to use some coal black and throw a little highlight on the shadow side.
Now I'm imagining the thralls like having like golden retriever personalities or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're just super enthusiastic,
We're here to help.
wanting to help out Alexia, carry her stuff around.
Oh man, I want to do an homage Alexia for another mini crate. Can we do another mini crate of Alexia?
Sure.
I want to do an homage.
What are you thinking of?
Cassandra Peterson, the original Elvira.
Oh yeah, totally. I can see that. I remember watching those pretty often.
I think it'd just be a fun homage. Okay, so I'm highlighting this side of the hair with coal black, and then the other side I'll do something a little warmer. So I'm gonna put in mid-off white highlight into Thamar black, and then I'll add a little warmth to that, and then I'll throw some little pinchy highlights on this side.
So if you did the Elvira one, then you could have like a crypt keeper with her.
Ah, sweet.
Dude was so creepy.
That would be kind of dope, actually.
Yeah, a little crypt
I'm not gonna lie,
keeper.
that would be a
pretty
cool
cool.
mini.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Legionnaire says, "What about Denegra as Elvira?"
Nope.
No. Nope. Alexia.
I'm okay with that. Oh man, I'm gonna have to get an extra Alexia if at all possible, because then when we do have Denny Zero come out, do like a kit bash.
I can't remember exactly. Did we? Does Denny Zero? Did she still have like the helmet on?
Yes, but
I really want. I really wanted Denegra without a helmet.
Well, I mean, I think Alexia's had her.
Well, she doesn't have a full helmet.
Okay.
You can
It
see
is
you
much
can see her
less,
face,
yeah.
like her
Okay.
eyes are showing.
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
her eyes haven't changed yet. There's the whole lower part of her face. The helm doesn't take over as much of the
Right.
body.
No, it's literally her whole head. Like it's like a hat now.
Mhm.
Like you can see all of her face.
That's good. I couldn't remember. I think I've seen the concept art, but I just can't remember it off the top of my head.
I mean, I might have just approved the painted mini, so it's real fresh.
Cool.
Okay, that defines that a little bit. Okay, so I'm really thinking here, and I'm like I like the blue now in the skin. I think it needs more purple or magenta in the skin in the shadow side.
Oh, okay.
So I'm seeing it now. I do like the light coming from this direction because I was trying to decide which direction the light was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like this was the right choice though because it accentuates the leg and that curve.
Yeah, I like it.
But if it's coming from this side, it accentuates the hip. So
Decisions.
I don't know still. See, this is why I'm doing this project, right?
Yeah.
This is
Try some
literally
things.
is
decide what you want as you play with it.
yeah, it's allowing me to do some work and get something done, and whoops, and work on some of the.
Knock stuff everywhere.
I just do what I want, and kind of get some ideas flowing. I don't know if does anybody else like on stream work like this? Has anybody else tried this
I have.
Doing like a little
on stream?
little rough draft.
I haven't done it on stream, no, because well, I don't do personal streams.
No, I'm
'cause-
asking the stream. Any of you fine folks watching?
Well, because the delay I was giving in a minute.
Oh, I'm not into delays. I don't believe in them.
We need him because Schick is still employed here, even though it doesn't save us.
Do you have like a little swear button on this panel? Like that you can...
No, that would actually literally like there's
That
no
would be
dump button.
useful.
There's
No dump
there's
button.
no like there's nothing like that.
No, you have no tools.
Yeah.
I pushed all the putty off my thing. Red Death M's asked if there's any comments on the next Bahi model.
Not
No,
just
not
yet.
yet.
I've heard rumors of what we might see next, but until those are real from production,
I've
I
seen
don't
some
say
stuff in
anything.
the studio.
Right, but until production comes to me and says this is coming out at this point, I get nothing.
I've seen things.
Well, you have to see things, studio director.
I do have to see things. I'm just teasing.
Just be like Schick and just say it.
No one has ever told me to be like shit. So of course, Deathless Metal on the hilt.
Oh yeah, man. You have no idea how much I wish I would have had that color years
yeah.
ago. Between Deathless Metal, Cold Steel, and Armor Wash, I can get so much work done.
Oh yeah, and that that boiler black too. I really like it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really, man. That's the thing is like Ron and I, we've been using more and more of the boiler black and the galvanized steel on a lot of projects. So we've been talking a lot about like what kind of things we're using on that. I really like the galvanized steel. I think the community is still figuring it out. That's cool. But
What has the reaction been?
I think people are just learning how to use it still,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's so subtle, right? So it's just fun, and it's not for every. Maybe it's just it is not just for every project. So
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't figured it out.
yeah, and that's fine. It's a thing. She's wearing a belt, and oh, it is a black belt. I can see it on the art too. Okay, cool. I did that right. Now I'm going to use not Deathless. No, I'm going to use Blighted Gold to highlight that.
That's another color I found myself using more than I expected when I first.
Blighted
started.
Gold?
Yeah, blighted gold.
Oh, Black Gold's just good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Blighted Gold. If you're not using Blighted Gold, oh my God, you're missing out. Riker's talking about he tends to do 10 down light direction. 10 is
top down.
or top down. Yeah, I just saw it. Top down is fine for me for gaming. I prefer for art pieces more between that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock,
Sharper
or
angle.
1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. On this, I'm seriously considering 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock and doing 2 different lights from 2 different sides.
Just to get some different shadows and.
Yeah, literally trying lighting it from 2 directions. All right, I'm just gonna throw a little bit of this Blighted Gold because I love it so much. Just kind of
tippy tapping it on there.
Tip of the taps along these edges. Just barely using the tip of my brush and just kind of establishing some highlighting on all this texture on this little hilt. It doesn't have to be perfect. It really, really doesn't. Especially on this piece, because this piece is not for anything. This poor Miles is probably going to get shoved in his bag or something.
I'll finish it.
I was like, this goes in a bag. And then I die, and my son digs it out, and he's just like, ugh, and he throws it away.
Zane doesn't have like any sentiment built into it.
No.
That kid has zero sentimentality.
Has he been getting into painting at all?
No,
Man.
no, he's not an artist. Which is fine.
Do you try to foist your advice and guidance on him, and then he ignores it?
So, I mean, we can get into this. I love this conversation. I'm one of those people, like, there's definitely, like, I've seen videos, and it's like, you know, some kid, like, some like 5-year-old, like, soccer prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you see, like, the tag, it says, like, I hope I have a kid like this. That's never been me. I'm just like,
Right.
I get what I get.
Yeah,
I get what I get.
You got it.
So whatever he is,
Does he have all of his limbs and want to do something?
that's all I care about. As long as he's happy and
Sure.
he finds somebody that treats him good and he goes out and he, you know, does his things. That's all I care about.
He
right?
does seem happy.
Yeah, I mean, when he's not, you know, just ranting against everything. So I'm going to use a little brass balls to highlight that sword filler. What do you think? I think it's not a bad little sketch.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
She looks so grumpy. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
she's definitely
those
grumpy.
austere lines. Well, I like the notion of bringing that lighting in to kind of cast her face into sharp relief. And
Yeah, and I think the blue, so like I have that underbelly blue mix on this side, and it works really good when you're looking at it from this side, but it does need another layer. And that's probably where the purple or magenta would come in, is to add that another layer. Also, I need something to define the fingers, things like that. So there needs to be another layer of shadows, but I do like the blue, that subtle blue tones in the skin. So I think I am going to keep a lot of that. I believe. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting some thoughts.
do you have any thoughts on the little on the thrall flesh on the to contrast with her own pale skin?
So I know we only have technically 10 minutes, but I'm willing to go a little over to
Sure.
do that.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot her wraps. I want to throw a little color on her wraps. Does everybody call it going a little long? I mean, if the chat doesn't want it, I don't want it.
Well, we'll know if they start disappearing, right?
There's your chance, chat. Fight for what you believe in. I think the cloth should go more gray than the blue green I got. I'm not liking the green at all.
Yeah. So it's the green specifically that's bothering you.
I think it's the green specifically. I think it needs to lean more to blue gray instead of a green gray. But also kind of depends a little bit on what I do with the lighting over here. In my head, the lighting is some sort of green candle or something. I'm not sure yet. That's the other thing, is I don't have my plinth and I haven't quite mapped out.
Yeah.
What's casting the light?
Yeah.
Some lantern or
A lantern
something over there.
Something.
One of the Strange Light Workshop lanterns.
Oh God. Purple
Just do a
light.
purple light.
I'm just imagining, and then it's just like a hand or something over there. Some poor hapless strange light mechanic or something that happened to run into Alexia on a bad day.
Like, so, okay, since I've got you as a captive audience for a second, I need her to meet Eilish.
Well,
Stuff.
that might happen in the CCAT collection.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
That is a little bit of a spoiler.
Oh my gosh, this model.
Okay, now I'm like super hyped because I'm normally hyped for the collections you work on, but now I'm okay. Now I'm at 11.
It's a story primarily about Eilish, but then there's a little Alexia cameo.
This model and the new Eilish model.
People are very excited about that. Well, and that's what I was thinking about as I was looking at what you were doing with this model with the greens and stuff, and how you were saying you wanted to shift it more blue. I'm like, I like the greens, so I like what's going on. Maybe I could do that on my Eilish, right? And I'm like, why isn't Eilish hanging out with Alexia? They could go on adventures.
And since I was in here, when Dallas was working on Eilish, it's entirely possible that my story choices were directly influenced by Get Your Paint On. So
there you go, folks.
Yeah.
Making things happen.
That's right.
I'm making canon now.
Well, it was one of these things. Like like I said, most of the stories in the collection are older, but several of them are ones that have never been read by anybody before.
We have a new website coming soon.
Yeah,
which is another place we're going to get to be able to put lore.
But what I was going to say is the idea for this story in particular was I wanted to do something that was more recent, that kind of touched on some recent events, and that kind of touched base with some characters that have been prominent, but maybe hadn't gotten a lot of screen time, and even though Eilish is in a number of fiction pieces, we kind of advanced him, in that occultist direction a little faster. Like the model is actually a little bit kind of future looking, so I wanted to kind of get into that a little bit. But yeah, I was very much thinking of the time when I was sitting here watching Dallas freehand in Eilish's book.
Yeah.
Do you remember the time?
If it's not an additional spoiler and it's just you like wishing, Dallas, who would you have hang out with Eilish and Alexia? Who would be like their third musketeer?
Their third musketeer
of dark terribleness.
How old is Eilish? Eilish is fairly young, right?
He's pretty young.
Yeah, he's pretty young. So you got young Eilish exploring the occult things.
Sure.
You have Alexia, who is
also
trapped
exploring. She's exploring occult things.
And just all wrapped up in the occult.
I feel like you need like a somebody who's like not
a straight man.
You need the
need the straight man
or the magical sparkle.
No, he's got no magic.
Sure.
Oh, so Maxwell Finn.
No, let Dallas answer it.
I kind of like Maxwell Finn to some extent. He's like the haggard old guy, and he's just like these two pups. And but I feel like you need somebody who is like stuck there.
Sure.
Right, and he's trying to keep these two wrangled.
Right.
With no magic.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that. What? I'm trying to think. I won't.
I mean, you could go real odd couple and just make it like
Holden.
The
not Holden.
Someone in chat said Holden too.
Not Holden.
Harlan Versh.
Versh would be fun.
Yeah.
Versh would be fun, and we did have a little bit of time between Versh and Eilish in Wicked Ways. In Aaron's story there.
Well, you could also have them hanging out with Pendrake.
But the notion of Versh having to put up with Alexia is pretty amusing, because every instinct in his body would be to murder her.
Smite that.
Right.
Yeah, smite that thing down.
So way early on, one of my
both of them, honestly, both
yeah,
Eilish
and
Versh would be like
quad iron.
It's like, I want to shoot these. I want to shoot these two so bad.
So one of my earliest role playing experiences was I was playing a character. I was asked to play in a game, and I made a character, and then I come to find out that my character was completely the antithesis to the rest of the party.
Right, that can happen, definitely.
But the DM, because he wanted us to all get along and play, he made my character vital.
Sure.
To these
sometimes that works really well.
Campaign.
Yeah,
right?
You get people at cross purposes, but you got to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we want to kill him. And my character class was very much a trick. Can I talk about specific gaming? I don't know if I can. So
It's your cast.
You're doing
we're,
what you want.
We're
I don't
late
want to
in
get.
the
I don't
hour
want to
mark.
get in trouble.
He was a trickster type.
He was a trickster type, and so he did nothing but screw with the rest of this party because he knew he couldn't be killed.
Right.
They can't just kill him. They
I
want
mean,
to kill
as
him.
long as you have like a group of players that will play with that and like are not just going to murder another player out of hand. I think those are some of the best group setups. Is when you've got some internal tension, you've got people who have different goals, but they have to work together. Like that's some of my favorite stuff to try to engineer. When I'm setting a group in motion.
Well, I mean, my guy had no goals. That was the best part. This is like I have no goals.
But they needed you.
But
yeah.
I was asked to play, and I just made the character, and they're like, okay, but they needed me, and I'm like, oh, I'm totally using this to my advantage.
Yeah, and I think the the Iron Kingdoms role playing
DM
games can set up for that really well.
The game master went to help you out, and you made it worse.
And I made it worse.
Yeah.
This is like, the game master was just like, well, I want you to play, and I'm like, I'm gonna make this terrible for you. I didn't do it on purpose at first. I just made a character that I liked.
Legionnaire suggests Linus, who's another character I've always liked, and I like the notion of Linus like feeling a little awkward with his own giant sword, that he's not actually very good with.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good choice, Linus.
Linus, he's got he's a scholar. He knows things.
And he doesn't really
I like
want to go on
Amino
an adventure.
J's suggestion. They need a Gobber, so Reinhold.
Gobber's good, but no, I was just thinking, riffing on the Linus thing of like a book club. So we've got Eilish, Alexia, and Linus get in this book club. I think that could be a pretty fun little. I want to write that now. Like it's just a little.
We need a
comedy.
young reader's line.
Yeah.
The Weekly Reader.
It's like, but I imagine it's like it's an anonymous book club. That's like it's like a posting that was put up in Corvus or something, and then you don't know who's going to be there till you show up, and it'd be from Linus's perspective, right? He's looking forward to meeting some new people.
So they're finally going to meet up because they've decided
There's been
the
some
latest
delays.
occult masterpiece they read they have to discuss in person.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there all awkwardly. None of them wants to admit like exactly what's going on with them. And then suddenly something happens. The floor falls through, and now they're on an adventure together.
Well, they're
There you
in
go.
Corvus, so
Yeah, bad things often happen in Corvus, and
Corvus, city of awful.
Well, and both Eilish and Linus have really bad luck, and so yeah.
because Alexia's luck is so good.
Well, Alexia. Oh no, but I mean, things tend to work out for Alexia. Like she is not usually.
Mom dead. Let's put her in. Your head.
She's usually doing okay compared to everybody else. Like I would not be worried about Alexia in that circumstance.
No.
Sure.
All right. Well, I can't find my color, so.
What were you trying to find?
I was looking for thaw flesh, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna make something similar.
Make your own home brew.
Yeah, I'll homebrew it. I'll do a Trader Green and Sickly Skin, and I'll get me a Thrall-like flesh.
Slap a TM on the side of that.
Yeah.
Raw like flesh.
They're all like
TM.
flesh. Well, yeah. Just looking at that illustration, I really like the teeth on that thrall behind her.
That are just kind of.
Yeah. He really looks like he's
sinister, but a little derpy.
He thinks he's the star. Like he thinks he's the star of that photo.
Out of the way!
This is all about me.
Why are pretty girls always blocking my view?
She's in the way of my portrait. Riker's Iron's like, out of the way, He-Man!
Age before beauty.
super geeky thrall. She hates that one the most, and,
Oh,
he just keeps coming back. Like every time he gets killed, he
She
just
just
comes back.
smashes him into pieces. He's just, nah.
I guess my Thaco wasn't up to snuff.
Wow, he's talking Thaco even. Man, old edition thrall. I
we're
like
the worst.
I
God,
like it.
nerd.
I like the notion. I like the notion of recurring geek thrall. Little curse on Alexia that she has to put up with.
Oh, she's like, I'm so.
She's like, these are the
sick
kind of things you have to put up with if you're going to have an artifact like the Witchfire.
But she has to give him credit. You know, he's very polite.
Yeah, and he occasionally throws himself in front of her to get killed by whatever.
And then just, gets back up later.
Yeah, later comes out of the ground.
Somebody shoots at her and he just jumps in front of her and he goes, "Till next time."
Yeah, till next time.
Stop making Dex your dump stat.
I must save the day again.
Learn to dodge.
Oh, man. I've always liked, just speaking of GMing, I've always liked, giving the group a powerful magic item, but I will give them some horrible side effect that will come up like that. Like that's one of my favorite things to do.
Give them a Todd.
Yeah, you gotta get it. You gotta penalize them for having the really cool magic item.
You have this epic, mighty weapon, but you must also deal with Todd.
Todd, the really annoying thrall.
Striker 911 says, "Todd, I've had enough for you today. Smash."
I'll be back.
I think he's progressive. I don't think he ever does the pedantic "well, actually" thing. Right?
No.
He's annoying.
No, he thinks,
But he doesn't
Yeah, and
mansplain.
he thinks he's a hero. He's just helping out. Knows he's cannon fodder. He's okay with that.
Yeah, I like Todd.
Todd's good.
Cannon Todd. He's copywritten it. He's leaned into it and made it a thing.
Just imagining him like one of those like tennis ball people, like just like waiting for his moment to like jump in front of Alexia and take the hit. It's my moment.
Suffer the interference from Todd. Striker's my favorite now. He is officially Todd.
So yeah, just some typical little dead fleshy.
Cool. Oh, that looks good.
I imagine that's Todd's hand going, "Let me hold that for you."
Yeah, it's just coming out of the ground. Well, or that could be the one that Dallas is going to add, to behind her.
Yeah, Todd's going to be behind her.
Todd's going to be the one coming out.
"You look perturbed. Let me hold this."
Yeah, I like what you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, this is just
I definitely like the blue.
Little
Like
sketch.
I can see it like on her right side of her face there. It's very subtle, but I like it a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, it needs to be. There needs to be some reds in there or something. And this all needs to be defined a little bit more. But
Sure.
But are you feeling
yeah,
some inspiration
I
toward
feel
your
like
final
I'm getting
project?
my colors and thoughts and like direction out of this. So just a little rock color on this, just to give everybody an
Block it out.
idea what's happening.
So if you were doing something like that, where you're kind of, figuring something out for the first time, would you keep it and then get another model, or would you strip the model down to start over?
Another model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going straight to another model on this. Like, I've actually cleaned 3 of these.
Cool.
Sean Barnes just popped into chat. He's the one who did the pink Thugrash.
Oh, cool.
Hello.
I know Dallas and his crack team of judges are still going through them. There was a lot to like, so
There's a lot
it's
to like.
Yeah, that was fun to watch.
taking a minute to pick their favorites. But have no fear.
Have no
Favorite
fear.
we shall pick, and a winner we shall have.
If there's anything I got in this world, it's time.
I like the one that was like fully illustrated and he had a drool on there, and
Yeah, the one that was like purple with all the extra green glow and stuff. That was fun too.
Yeah. I like the one that had like the splatter behind the two.
oh yeah, that was cool. There
Like I
some
said,
people.
there was a lot to like.
Some people put in some real work on those.
Yeah, we will definitely have to do something like that again.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, I remember the first year that we, I guess it wasn't that long ago, but when we first put out the sort of coloring book pages at Lock and Load,
yeah.
and just how people would immediately loved it. Like,
Well,
It
and the
was
stuff
done
that we
originally
ended up
just
getting.
in case we had some kids show up or whatever.
Yeah, it was just like, I guess we need something in the kids area, and then
But-
like a horde of
Yeah,
like,
there were a
like,
lot of people gathered
regular-
over there just coloring.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah,
Because and let's be fair, coloring is relaxing.
it
as
is.
hell.
It really is.
Like one of the things, like so, because my lady's in school right now, working on getting her doctorate. One of my favorite things to get her is just like a random, like here's a little fun gift thing, right? Thinking about you, is I'll send her coloring books,
Sure.
right? Because that way, when like she's done studying, it's like the perfect thing to like sit down with the dog and just relax.
And I know we've talked about doing that a couple of times. We need to make that happen. Iron Kingdom's coloring book.
Mm-hmm. There are plans.
Yeah.
For various things.
I know it's been talked about. I'd like to see it happen.
Well, and coloring books, like Sean just pointed out again, they're super useful for practicing, like
Yeah,
color
your
theory
paint.
and
Yeah,
stuff
your
like
paint
that, you know what I
schemes
mean?
and
Like,
stuff.
If you don't have an extra model to play around with,
Yeah,
P3 paints work on paper,
true.
True.
right? Like if you want to like practice some blending, you actually can practice some blending. It can't be the thinnest paper ever, otherwise
Right.
you're not quite going to get it. But most coloring books will work just fine.
I mean, I prefer a model because of three dimensionality, and
Absolutely.
also because you're,
It's more applicable to your
it's
work.
yeah, you're not working in 2 dimension. You're actually working in 3 dimension, and that's a very important thing to constantly keep in mind.
Yeah. It also kind of reminds me of when we were first doing, the very first time that we tried to kind of make some official color schemes for things back in Superiority. We created sort of basically like a little coloring outline of a couple of models, and it was really funny handing them to Matt Wilson, because then he was basically just having fun coloring things. He was just like,
Yeah.
I like this color scheme, and he had a lot more fun with it than we anticipated.
And it's always kind of fun because you'll try those 2D ones and then you find out that doesn't work in
Sometimes,
3D.
yeah. Well, and some of
Every
the
once in a while,
some of those
it
color
doesn't work
schemes
out.
were definitely work out a little better than others. But it's fun to just kind of play with
Playing is fun.
yeah. And I do like the notion of doing sort of a rough draft on a model like this.
Pick up 2 VIPs.
Of course, Dallas's rough draft would be like my best work ever.
It's all right. It's not a contest.
No, it's just fun. Like I inherited one of Cruzy's, I think it was one of his like speed painted World Watchers or something, and it's like the best looking model in my Circle Army. And so, but it was just he's just like a speed painted throwaway.
I kept the Castigator from the first part of our Formula P3 Presents series as kind of like a memento of like, hey, me and Dallas made a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best looking thing on my desk at any given time.
Right. Sometimes these guys forget how good they are.
But that's okay, especially if it inspires you to do something.
Yeah.
Or you steal it. A little highlight on the sword just to give that little. Yeah. This is what I want. I want that onyx sword. Okay, we only went 15 minutes over.
I think it's looking good.
Yeah.
And I think that works for some of my thought processes.
Yeah,
So-
and you figured out that color on the cloth that you did not like.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I went back and put a little more blue back over that, and it worked much better. But that green gray it made it look like almost mossy,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that at all. And I like the starkness. I was afraid of the starkness of the sword against the pale, but I think that works really good.
Yeah, it's a good contrast.
And I really like the blue in the skin. I think the shadows need to go down into some purpley
Yeah, the
colors.
camera right side of her face and stuff looks really cool with the blue there.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. I'll take a picture of this and post it. But it's kind of just, that's what I'm thinking about, right? And like now I need to go through So the next thing I would do real quick, and I know this is going on and on, is I want I'm thinking about having a green glow on this side. So maybe,
Which might be from your secondary light source or something.
yeah.
Maybe there's a little soul cage lying over there.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I still haven't worked out all the details of what the scene is.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see what you come up with for it. I love anything that does the diorama type scenes, anything that has a little story to it. I just love that kind of stuff.
And that's I do too. I am all about story and narrative. So like I like telling stories, especially like things like this where I'm kind of get to play, and I didn't have to come up with the story, right? That was your job. And I can just tell, like, not like a version, but like just kind of bring it to life.
Well, yeah, and you're bringing
miniature.
the spirit of it. Like even just the notion, like when you were first talking about the cave, I was just imagining her on her quest to basically to discover more necromantic lore, which is all toward the notion of bringing her mom back, you know. And so
Right.
it's the idea of her she's descending into the darkness to learn what she needs to try to achieve this impossible and probably bad idea.
Suicidal.
Yeah,
Get
like
out of
like
my
you don't
head.
you don't really want your
Get
mom
into
back.
my cart.
like maybe just let your mom be dead, but she's not going to do that.
She's not standing for it.
Nope, she wants her mom back.
But yeah, I think
Maybe just let your mom be dead. I love it.
Sometimes just got to move on.
I think yeah. I like the little stories and stuff like that. It's always the part of these games that we play that is interesting to me.
Well, especially if you're working on
let your
something
mom be
that's
dead.
well, especially if it's something that you're working on as more of an art piece rather than like a playable model. I mean, sometimes you can get those little stories in the playable models too. Like I love seeing people get creative with their bases, and you know they've come up with background for it. But when you can go full on with sort of a larger setup, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and like I said, the title of my piece was called "The Things We Do for Love," and
Yeah.
I kind of want to re-explore that.
Yeah,
with this new bit.
I'm excited to see it.
Well, hopefully I can get one done. See, and we throw a little green on there and see how that changes that whole.
Mm-hmm.
Makes the blue stand out more.
Yeah, so that blue needs to be in there for that green to work. It also frames that green on the each side, where this is like a green glow that's constrained, and this is more of an ambient glow.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you could even think about like maybe
I can't wait to paint mine.
Yeah.
maybe throwing a little bit more up further on her. Just a touch though.
Well, I think somebody in the audience needs to make the book club tableau.
Oh, I love the book club thing. It's ridiculous.
I want to see
I
the
need to go get a Linus.
yeah, get the Linus, Eilish, and Alexia book club.
Well, does Malachus get to come hang out?
Maybe
He's got a big book.
Maybe he's outside the door.
Guys,
He's knocking on the door.
We might have just made another model that has a
but I
book.
want to tell you
Got
about
some more
my
books.
book.
We got another book. We got another book on the way.
He'd be real obnoxious in any book club because you keep wanting to bring it back to the canon of the true law. Like, we're not talking about the canon of the true law today.
But I've read it 500 times.
It's the only book that matters.
I know it real good. Parting thought styles.
Patience, practice, perseverance. This shows the practice side of that.
Yeah.
The perseverance will be
Finishing it.
not finishing it. I'm done. This is done. I'm never going to touch this again.
Yeah.
I'm never going to touch this again. I've done my sketch. I've got some ideas. Now I have to do the perseverance part and get a plinth and make a thing that's going to take me hours and hours and hours. But it'll be
If
pretty-
you later decide you want to throw that away, I will take it off your hands.
I think
Yeah.
we're gonna fight for it.
Yeah.
Because he's probably got to hold on to it for reference.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I
sure.
mean, I
One day
definitely
when
need it
he's
for
not paying
reference.
attention, I'm just gonna go down there and swipe it.
once the real one's done.
It's gonna be like,
I mean, I might paint her eyes in and put a definition line between her dress and her skin. That's not there because I'd have to flip the model over, and I don't try to do a lot of that on Get Your Paint On. Try to do that off screen because it's just
It's not photographic.
it's not photographic.
Right.
So I might do another 10 minutes just to tidy up those areas, but I'm pretty much just going to call this my sketch, and I got some ideas. I'm liking the green glow. I don't know what to put over there yet. I think
Right.
I like the idea of a lantern or a
Yeah.
soul cage or something.
I think you could do something like that. Yeah. The idea of something that's been sort of knocked over.
Yeah, and I might push the contrast even more. Like she might be too well lit. I don't know yet. I'm getting them ideas.
Good.
So there we go.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
That's
All right,
great.
folks. With that,
Well, thanks for letting me join you.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking about Alexia.
Sure.
It was great.
Always can talk about Alexia.
See you later, gang. Bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna pack up. Oh my God, I got so many colors out. Look how many colors I got.